So good evening and welcome to the 2018 Clarington Ward 1 electoral debate. Tonight we've invited candidates for mayor, for regional councillor representing wards 1 and 2, and local councillor for Ward 1, covering Curtis, Mitchell's Corner, Salina, Enfield, and other points north. The mayor's debate portion of this event is being broadcast on Rogers TV. So welcome, Rogers viewers. I'm glad you could join us tonight. My name is Louis Bertrand, and I wish to remain strictly impartial as your moderator this evening. In fact, I won't even vote in this ward since I'm a resident of the township of Scugog. Myself and the organizers wish to thank the congregation of Hope Fellowship for the use of their sanctuary, our volunteer timekeeper, Quinton, and audiovisual technicians from Hope Fellowship, and the organizer, Libby Rakansky, who organized this very important event that's part of the civic life for Clarington. We will begin the debate with a short introduction from each candidate for the office of mayor in alphabetical order. When we conclude, candidates will again have 2 minutes to wrap up in reverse alphabetical order. For each question, we will rotate the order of who speaks first, and each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer. Throughout this debate, since we have incumbents and former members of council in both portions of the debate, I would ask those candidates, as part of their answer, to highlight what they did while in office to address the particular concern or issue. The candidates for the office of mayor of the municipality of Clarington are Mark Canning, Adrian Foster, and Matthew Marshall. Mr. Marshall declined our invitation and is not present tonight. As part of the 2-minute introduction, we asked that the candidates address the following question. According to Money Sense 2018, Clarington is number 34 in ranking of the best places to live. The ranking system weighs the economy and affordability as most important, followed by health, weather, commute, trails and physical activities, crime, taxes, demographics, and cultural amenities. Please explain to residents what you would do to improve Clarington's standing as a good place to live. So 2 minutes, starting with Mark Canning. Please go ahead.
First, I'd like to thank the organizers, Hope Fellowship Church, Rogers, for doing this event, and everyone taking the time to come up today. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Mark Canning. I'm running for the mayor of Clarington. I'm running in this election because I believe that it's time for new ideas and change in Clarington. My platform is based on building a more livable community in Clarington. That means local jobs, affordable, improving roads and transit, enhancing safety, and increasing accountability and transparency. How are we going to do this? We're going to make Clarington more affordable by lowering our taxes. We're going to reduce all expenses 3% across the board in every part of the municipality. We're going to undertake a third-party review of all our finances inside the municipality. And we're going to undertake a review to look at our assets to see how we can do things more efficiently. It's also time to improve our transit and roads. That means no pothole will go unfilled. We need to make our bus routes much more efficient than they are. Run north, south, east, west, so it makes it easier for riders. And I'm going to make sure that we finally get the go off the books so people can get on the go. We need to create more local jobs here closer to home. Everyone agrees to that. By reducing barriers to business and agriculture, all the different red tape and restrictions, we need to let businesses innovate and diversify. We also need to bring high-speed internet and natural gas to every part of Clarington. It is 2018. And finally, we need to figure out what we want to do as a municipality in terms of our core competency and what we want to do to attract new business. We also need to make sure that our communities are safer. We need to give our police forces the ability to police our communities much better. We need to give our first responders the tools and the support to do their job better. And we need to make sure we have strategies in place to support our communities by the lake and our shorelines. And finally, we need to enhance transparency and accountability in this office. All the residents want that. We're going to open up town hall in terms of using social media to broadcast all our council and committee meetings. We're going to utilize our digital assets much better than they are so people can know what's going on inside the municipality. And finally, we must hold councillors to a higher standard by recording all votes for the public to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark Canning. And now 2 minutes from Adrian Foster. Please go
So,
ahead.
Louis, you haven't described the
I'm sorry. I'm so
magic
sorry.
wand that
magic
we see
wand.
down there. So is that a 30-second warning?
No, it's going to be at the 2-minute mark. You'll get
At the 2 minutes.
Right.
Okay, so it means wind up as quickly as you can. Thank you.
With only 2 candidates, I think we can have a little bit of leeway, but please
Yes.
exercise restraint. Thank you very much.
I just saw a wand there, and thank you for that. So again, thank you all for what you've done, the effort that you've put into putting this on this evening. I'm Adrian Foster. I'm the mayor of the municipality of Clarington, and the question asked is, what would you do to improve Clarington's standing as a good place to live? And I'm going to tell you what I have actually done and what we're continuing to do to keep Clarington as such an exceptional place to live. Council and staff always strive to make our community the best that it can be. Over the past few years, we've done an exceptional job. We've added 2,400 jobs over the past 4 years. That does not include the thousands of jobs at Darlington. It does not include the thousands of tradespeople for the local construction that you see. That is valued at $1.4 billion, by the way, over the past 4 years. Doesn't include the work going on in the 407. 5 years ago, our unemployment rate was well above the provincial average. Our unemployment rate today is well below the provincial average. We are on a roll. Being ranked the 20th best community in Canada highlights what an awesome community we have. That ranking is the highest in Durham, and we're proud of it. We have and we continue to expand our trail systems and our bike paths. We have and continue to expand public waterfront space. The zoo lands, 34 acres, which we just negotiated at no cost, is a legacy for our residents. We've protected and we will continue to protect open spaces, our agriculture assets, and our historic downtowns. Downtowns where you can catch some sort of festival or activity pretty much any night of the week through the summer. Activities and festivals that we both encourage and directly support. We've kept taxes low, lower than the GTA average and second lowest in Durham region. And the increases? They've been predictable and well below the GTA average. We worked hard to get the GO train to Bowmanville. Drive down Curtis Road on your way home and you'll see work starting now on the Curtis GO site. We're excited about the expansion of our hospital and the new hospice. Our efforts are paying off. What we're doing, it's working. We're building an even better community. My mom always said that actions speak louder than words. Check out the promises I have kept, the work that I have done. If you go to www.adrianfoster.ca, you will see it.
Thank you, Adrian Foster. Now we will come back to questions that have been submitted, ahead of time by residents and prepared by ourselves, the organizers. We will also invite questions from the audience, and there is a microphone right at the front, right here. If you'd like to come up for questions. We'll do a few questions that are prepared and then open up to the floor. Can I have just an expression of interest of who would like to ask a question? Just raise your hand, just so you have an idea of the mix we should do. So 2 and 1? Maybe. So, okay, first question, and we will go in alphabetical order, starting with Mark Canning. The next question will be to Adrian first, and so on. Residents are complaining that they were not fully represented by former representatives at the region. Would you be more approachable and accountable to community needs? For the incumbent or previously on council, please highlight your actions while in office. Mark Canning.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think that this particular role requires leadership. We have always felt that Clarington is being pushed to the backwater, so we absolutely need to show leadership at the region. I think it's time to do that. The other thing we need to really do is build better relationships inside our council. I think that's absolutely critical. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. Adrian Foster.
So I disagree with the premise that Clarington is not represented. I think Clarington has been exceptionally well represented. If you look at the roles that I've taken, I was on the Affordable and Seniors Task Force. Just involved in hiring, hopefully, a new CEO. There are exciting times ahead at Durham Region. I also chaired the strategic planning session for all of the regions. So Clarington has been front and center in that. If you've noticed recently, our treasurer, Nancy Taylor, wonderful, wonderful lady, is now the Commissioner of Finance at Durham Region. So leadership has always been at Durham Region. I've always enjoyed an exceptional relationship with my regional peers, and I expect to continue to do that.
Okay, thank you, Adrian Foster. Next question is, air quality in Clarington is not acceptable, given that more money was used for architectural design of the Durham-York EFW than for updated pollution control technology. Would you be more direct at the region to push St. Mary's Cement and the Durham-York EFW to improve the local air quality? Adrian Foster, 2 minutes, please.
So a couple of things that we did right out of the gate with the EFW is required additional ambient air monitoring stations. Those exist today, and we demanded with the EFW additional stack tests. Those are happening. That is a fact. That's stuff that has been done. More recently, there have been some concerns with air quality. I put a call into the Deputy Minister, who will be speaking about this. I think we need to get the Minister out to talk about sources, not just the EFW. So the construction that is going on at the 418 certainly has a huge impact as to why we've got some of the air quality issues that we do. Having said that, we have to underscore the fact that the air quality in Clarington is about the same as everywhere else in Ontario. We need to keep an eye more globally in Ontario as to what we're doing, why we're doing it. So I want to hear from the experts. I want to hear what the sources of problems are and deal with the appropriate sources.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adrian Foster. Mark Canning. If you'd like me to repeat the question, that's fine too. Okay,
No, that's fine. Thank you, Louis. For sure, the St. Mary's Cement is the third largest polluter in Ontario. It's a very powerful lobby that they're part of. It's a very difficult situation that we're stuck with. On the incinerator, let me be clear though, I'm not happy about the Clarington incinerator, but it is here. It's bad technology. It's bad for the environment and discourages waste diversion. But I will do everything I can to ensure that Covent, and I will hold them as mayor, as I should in any particular situation in Clarington, to the highest standard and make sure that we increase our waste diversion. There is better technology out there. There's better best practices. But I hope we can lead other communities and doing what we can around the world to get better.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. I would like to invite members of the public to come up to the microphone, and as soon as I see somebody at the microphone, I will interrupt, or I'll go to the next question at the microphone. If there's nobody, I will continue with the questions that have been submitted ahead of time. Come on, yes, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Donna Lanigan. I live in Curtis. I just wondered if there's any plans in the near future for some senior residences in the Curtis area. We have a lot of seniors, and they're still in their old homes, but they shouldn't be. They're medically not able to really be in them, but they don't want to leave the area. They have their doctors here. They have their friends at the community. And I just wondered if there's anything in the works for Curtis.
Okay, thank you for the question. Mark Canning.
Thank you, Donna, very much. We have a problem here in Clarington, and this comes back to my livability. Everything stems from livability. In fact, everything we'll do on council going forward and the municipality will be in the lens of livability. So older adults are very important here in Clarington. We don't have enough retirement homes. We don't have enough long-term care. We have 5 to 10 year wait lists, and I've talked to many, many people across Clarington, and they're leaving here. So we must absolutely focus on retirement homes for older adults or they'll leave. We're seeing that in places like Orono where there's not enough retirement homes, they're leaving. So we must look across the entire municipality in terms of livability, and that includes building retirement homes and making sure that we attract people here to invest in retirement homes here.
Thank you. And Adrian Foster.
1 minute, huh? Donna, thank you for the question, and we'll need to talk later because I cannot give you a complete answer in 1 minute. But I'll tell you that Durham Region does have a task force, and as I noted earlier, I sat on that task force for seniors and affordable housing. After that, we set up a task force in Clarington doing exactly that, and we are looking at ways through the task force that we can incent exactly what you're looking for. Not just seniors, but we need affordable housing for our youth as well. There has to be rentals so that our youth don't have to move out and our seniors don't have to move out. I can tell you the Lieutenant Governor visited Clarington several months ago. The topic of discussion with the Lieutenant Governor was seniors and affordable housing. At the end of that meeting, she looked at me and said, "Adrian, I do not want to come back a year from now and hear that you did nothing." Which I tell you, it makes you want to do some really good stuff. I don't want to have to look her in the eye and said we did nothing. Clarington right now is ahead of the rest of the municipalities in terms of working with Durham Region on that file. We'll talk a little bit more, but Andy Allison describes us as the kids in the class that everyone hates because we've done all of our homework. We're doing a lot of work on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrian Foster. At any time, if you want to come up to the microphone and ask your question, feel free. Go ahead.
I'd like to direct a question to Adrian Foster. Question's going to be strange coming from me because I got 25 years in Bonneville, happy years, but I come from a one-holer up in Orangeville, one-holer toilet. You look at me, you don't know what that is.
I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying, but keep going.
My question is am I loud enough or just my way I'm talking with my sore throat?
You can lift the microphone a bit.
Anyway, question. I'm going day in, day in, day. I see all the houses being built, tons of houses being built, and I don't see any infrastructure. Do we have the infrastructure around that can hold up to all these, or are we going to have a giant infrastructure gala one day?
So I think your question is around the infrastructure deficit that you hear about on a regular basis, and we do, in fact, have an infrastructure deficit. So houses are coming in. The infrastructure deficit that we're really struggling with is getting services in the ground to attract more businesses and more industry. One of the things you're not hearing a lot about in this campaign is what is going on at Durham Region. 50% of your taxes go to Durham Region. That is really important, and we split the rest with the local school board. I can tell you that Durham Region has something in the area of $2,600 million in reserves, $2.6 billion. One of the things that I've asked, and it passed by one vote, which is mind-boggling, was that the new council be educated as to what money is available to improve infrastructure. So if you can imagine, the motion was just to give us information on what money we've got and how we might improve infrastructure. Anyway, that did pass. We passed a similar motion in Clarington to deal with exactly that issue. It's a big issue. We are turning away businesses right now because water and sewer is not in the ground.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question. But in fairness, although the question was directed at Adrian Foster, I'd like to give Mark Canning a chance to reply as well.
I think in this campaign, I've been talking about livability a lot. I've also been talking about my concern around us becoming too much of a bedroom community. That's a big concern for me. I'm also concerned that when the new home market slows down, which it will be, we're going to see less tax revenues. We're going to see less development charges, which are supposed to pay for those kinds of things, slow down. That's a concern for me. When people buy a house for $600,000, they don't have a park, they don't have infrastructure. So we need to, I've been talking about intelligent growth and intelligent planning. We need to kind of slow it down, and I use the analogy of Hazel McCallion. You know, she was a great mayor in Mississauga, as you know. She was open to development, which I am, but you need to make sure that when you come into the community, you're creating good local jobs, as well as you're creating places and space for people to connect, retail services, the proper road system, so it eases the traffic. So we have a lot of work to do in that area, but I think we need to take a look at a serious look, which I'm talking about throughout this campaign.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark Canning. Seeing nobody at the microphone, ask the next question. Residents have been getting conflicting information from the municipality when it comes to road construction. Rural residents asking for road resurfacing and rehabilitation locally are told that there is no money. Yet Council has expressed its intention to expand urban development into the Greenbelt, which would entail new construction and maintenance costs, most of which would be put on taxpayers. How would you reconcile these mixed messages? And I believe it's Mark Canning.
Wait, could you repeat that question again?
Yeah, it's quite complicated. Residents have been getting conflicting information from the municipality when it comes to road construction. Rural residents asking for road resurfacing and rehabilitation locally are told that there is no money, yet Council has expressed its intention to expand urban development into the Greenbelt, which would entail new construction and maintenance costs, most of which would be put on taxpayers. How do you reconcile these mixed messages, this apparent contradiction?
As I talk to people around Clarington at the doors, we have a big problem with roads. Usually an indication of why our roads are not fixed, it's usually gross mismanagement, or we have an issue with our finance, which I can talk about later. But for the agricultural community, they tell me a lot that, I use the analogy of getting the eggs to market. If there are potholes, if the roads are not repaired, if there's not the shoulders to move the machinery, we have a problem in doing that. So we must relook at our finances in order to get our house in order and get on roads. I mean, some of the roads that I see in Curtis, as an example, I used to live in Curtis for 10 years, have not been repaired in over 30 years. People have drainage problems. So we need to relook at our finances and start repairing our roads.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. Adrian Foster, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, so I can be abundantly clear on one thing. Clarington encouraging the development in the Greenbelt is absolutely incorrect. Clarington is one of very few municipalities where we have agitated strongly. I have talked to ministers, I've talked to the Greenbelt Foundation, where the White Belt, those areas, the urban separators between Curtis and Bowmanville and Newcastle, we are actually asking them to be put into the Greenbelt so they are protected under the Greenbelt Act. And when I say them, I mean, the appropriate stuff that's going in. Most municipalities are asking the province to take things out of the Greenbelt. So we are absolutely not encouraging that, quite the opposite. The other is support to roads. So we have a schedule that moves forward in terms of what roads can be done when. We can't do them all at once. But I can tell you that in 2010, $4 million a year was going from the levy into Capital Works road. Since 2010, we've moved that $4 million a year to $7 million a year. We've almost doubled the support, and most of that is, in fact, rural roads. But roads are tough, they're expensive, and we can't do them all at once.
Okay, thank you, Adrian Foster. Is there a question? Fantastic, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Cash, and this question is directed to Mr. Canning. You've talked about tax cuts. I think you mentioned 3%? Please help me understand how that's going to look when and if tax cuts appear. I'm one of those people that gets really nervous and thinks tax cuts equal cuts in services. So please help me understand how this is going to look. Thank you.
Yes. So I think that you've heard me talk about our financial situation. We definitely have an issue in Clarington. As an example, if your house price in 2010 was in the $200,000 range, you paid X amount of taxes. You're now paying almost triple in terms of those taxes. So that's not fair. And they're also not getting any more services for that money. So people that, have now lived here, for instance, for the last 8 years are paying considerably more taxes and not getting services for it. So, in terms of reducing our budgets across each department, we need to do that, because if we're not able to take 3% from our budgets today, and there's some economic downturn, we're in a big problem. So we need to take that 3% off and look for better, more efficient ways of doing things, not in terms of cutting services or people, just looking at more efficient ways of doing things with resources, with technology. So this is not about a reduction of of people or services. It's just about doing things more efficiently so that we can now do things, as Adrian said, roads are very expensive. We need to start repairing those kinds of roads. We need to start improving our transit.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. Although the question was directed at Mark Canning, I'm going to give Adrian Foster a chance to respond as well.
Louis, thank you for that. So this is, it's a frustrating point for me. When your house prices increase, your taxes do not increase in tandem. If you think about it, when your houses decrease in value, you do not see a decrease in your taxes. So we adjust the tax rate. If you look at the average rate, I might have the average increase. I might have the number off by a little bit, but the 10-year overall tax increase, if you include the municipal, regional, and school board taxes, is about 1.4% per year. So if the suggestion is that your taxes have tripled over 8 years, you really, really want to talk to our tax department because something has gone horribly wrong with that. There was, Mark, you talked about Hazel McCallion. Hazel ran Mississauga with very low tax increases for a number of years after she left. There were some significant tax increases. If you listen to Mayor McCallion, because everyone still does call her Mayor McCallion, and I have the good chance to see her frequently yet, she will tell you that low or no tax increases are a really, really bad idea. You can't improve roads, you can't improve transit and services, and cut at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Adrian Foster. Next question is there are plans currently to extend the GO Lakeshore East rail line to Clarington. What steps will you take to push the province to move the project forward and to ensure that there is sufficient parking for residents in Clarington using the GO? And that goes to Adrian Foster first, followed by Mark Canning.
Well, thank you. So again, it's not a matter of what I would do; it's what I have done. And when I say I, a whole team is involved in this. We talked about a culture shift last time, and we realized early on in the term that the way we had been doing things, which was working alone, was simply not working. We got together with Durham College, the business community, Oshawa, Port Hope, and Northumberland joined us. We did a business case. We went around Metrolinx and went directly to the minister. And not only did we get the announcement for the GO train coming here in 2024, but we got money red circled for that GO train to come here. Again, if you go down Curtis Road, the municipality bought that property, at least, did the contract to buy the property where that Curtis Road station is. That was a catalyst. You will be able to park there and catch a shuttle bus late this year or early in 2019 on that. Moving forward, I can tell you that I continue to talk with Lindsay Park. Lindsay is our MPP. It's a new government. We need those relationships. We need to work with them to make sure that the GO train comes. I am happy to tell you, Lindsay tells me that all of the Durham MPPs are supportive of the expansion. David Piccini, he is the MPP to the east. He is supportive of it. And Lindsay tells me that the minister is supportive of that. To the point that is, in fact, if you look at the review of our strategic plan, those words are in the report. Lindsay was well aware that those words would be written in a public report coming forward. So that is that's a great accomplishment that we, working differently and working smarter, managed to achieve this term.
Okay, thank you, Adrian Foster. Mark Canning?
Thank you. I talked to a resident recently in Curtis, and she moved 20 minutes east from here, and she could not believe that we did not have the GO train. So, I've been here for 30 years, and, we're still waiting for the GO. As I said earlier, we need to get this off the books. The thing I'm concerned about is in 1995, there was a change in government in Ontario, and the City of Toronto lost their subway. So I'm not taking anything for granted. We have the land for the GO, but as mayor, you must, and we need to improve this in much different ways. We need to start working with the stakeholders that we have in the province, in the federal government, in industry. So I'm definitely going to be holding Lindsay Park as well as even Aaron O'Toole at task to make sure we get the go. It's not fair. It's not fair for people who want to build a life here, and we need the GO train. I mean, we have a broken transit system. I can talk about that, but the GO train is an absolute necessity until we can actually create more local jobs.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. At this point, can I invite more questions from the floor?
Hello. Election campaigns are all about sending messages to voters. Your first act in this campaign was to file your paperwork to run. One of you filed your paperwork on the first possible day. The other filed it on the last possible day. Please explain why you selected the day you did to file your paperwork, and what message should voters take away from this act? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think I've lost my order. I think it was Adrian Foster first.
Thank you. So I was I believe I was the first candidate to file. I did so, and I've always filed very, very early on the first day. It sends a strong message to the community as to the intentions of your mayor. So I think it's important that people know what the plan is, that people know what the commitment is, and be upfront about that as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrian Foster. Mark Canning, please.
I ran for local council in the past in Ward 3. In the last couple of years, I've had some, not major health issues, but I've had an issues with my hip joint. So I was a marathon runner and hockey player. So 2 years ago, I had my right hip joint replaced. And on July 5th, I had my left hip joint replaced. The team that is now supporting me came to me several months ago to discuss the position. They felt that I was the right kind of candidate. As myself personally, it's always been in me to give back. I'm 59 years old, so I'm doing this job. I'd like to do this job just purely to give back and make Clarington better. So I had to make a decision with my hip joint to see if I could actually campaign. I'm fine now, as you can see me walk up here, but that was why I held back until the very end.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. One more question from the floor, please.
Yes, my name is Wendy Bracken, and I'm a resident of Newcastle. I've closely followed the incinerator, and I have participated on several committees, citizen committees on the incinerator. I've only grown to become more and more concerned about the incinerator. By anyone's standard, it has not performed well. There have been numerous exceedances. Most notably the dioxin and furan exceedance, with it being one of the most toxic pollutants, with the facility emitting at 818 when the legal limit is 60. Most recently, long weekend in August, we learned that back in May, the ambient air limit was exceeded for dioxins and furans again. So, when Mayor Foster said that the air quality is the same as everywhere else, I disagree. And I also agree that St. Mary's is another factor that makes us worry about our air quality here. Now, we have ambient air monitoring right now at the incinerator, but that was a 3-year commitment. Given all the problems at the incinerator, and we don't have good answers yet on what's been happening. My question's 3 parts. Would you support advocating at the region that the ambient air monitoring must be continued at all the stations, where it is presently? Also, we currently have an EMISA monitor that continuously samples for dioxins and furans. They have not been able to correlate it since it first started operating. It was supposed to be there at the beginning when it first started up. It was not. And unfortunately, our municipality was not there saying, this should have been here, why wasn't it? And it's still not we don't have correlation. This is something that's being used in Europe all the time. Would you investigate this fully and advocate for Clarington? Thirdly, technology exists to continuously monitor particulate matter. That monitoring also gives an excellent indication of other heavy metals and other toxin pollutants. It's required in Europe. So continuous monitoring of particulate matter. And I don't mean opacity, I mean the actual continuous emissions monitoring system. It also exists for mercury. And right now, the incinerator does not have that, even though it was requested by citizens. It was regional council did not move forward with those monitoring that's available. Will you advocate for that at the region?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, Mark Canning, you're next, so please.
Thank you for your question, Wendy. You know, livable communities have good environmental practices, and so we have some issues around climate change, as we know, but this is a serious issue. As I mentioned before, you know, I don't support the incinerator. It's here. When I ran for local council before, people asked me if I was for or against it. Unfortunately, it was already here. Other candidates said they would stop it, and then they voted for it. You know, we got to bring honesty back into this position. But in terms of the incinerator, we must. You know, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in these particular areas, but one thing that we're going to be doing is forming task force in many different areas. We're going to relook at our seniors task force, our businesses, how we promote local business, how we bring local business into Clarington, and we're going to have an environmental task force to look at those kinds of things. So yes, I would support that. But I would like to, you know, learn more about it as well. But I would support making sure that it's absolutely as safe as possible, because livable communities must be safe. They must be environmentally friendly, and so we will look at that as well.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. Adrian Foster.
Okay, a couple of things there. Mark, you were talking about bringing honesty back into the position. When Councillor Hooper, Councillor Wu, and I were fighting against the incinerator, I don't recall you coming to council or writing letters to the paper. And that is true of a number of people who showed up after the war was lost, after the deal was signed, before council was installed. Wendy, thank you for the question. You and I disagree, you know, perhaps on causes, but I think at the end of the day, we agree, you know, that something has to be done with the air quality. So on the ambient air monitoring, yes. You know, will I support continuing that monitoring? Yes, I will. I don't think you're going to find any candidate in Clarington that is going to say no to that. And the reason I'll support that, and this is one of the things that maybe we disagree on, I don't care if the EFW is the cause of airshed issues or St. Mary's, if it's construction. If there's a problem, we've got to identify it and deal with it. On the EMISA cartridges, you know, there, as you know, and you sit on the committee, there have been technical problems with them that staff continue to work on those problems. On the particulate, and you may not have seen the report because it just came out. I did ask staff to please take a look at the particulate levels from the ambient air monitoring and compare them, see if there was a correlation between them and when the incinerator was down, when one boiler was down, or when both boilers were operational. And there was no correlation between that. You're shaking your head no. I'll get that information to you. That's maybe 2 weeks, 2 weeks old. You know, there is an issue with particulate, a huge amount of construction going on that, you know, a lot of the experts are looking at right now. But I'll get that. I said that's probably 2 weeks out that we got that back from regional staff.
Okay, thank you, Adrian Foster. I appreciate if you could keep the question short.
Sure. I just want a supplementary to that. When I spoke about air quality, I wasn't just referring to particulate matter. I was referring to dioxins and furans and everything else. And obviously the dioxins and furans exceeded, you know, the provincial legal limit, and considering their toxicity, that's a huge issue.
Okay, thank you. Would you-
We should both respond, I think, so.
If you could keep a short response, please.
So Wendy, don't disagree. Again, I think we disagree on the source of the dioxin interference. At the end of the day, the source is less important to me than dealing with the cause. Benzopyrene, across the province, we get exceedances. We need to find out why. That's another issue. And if the province is saying that, that there is a medical problem with this, I want to know why we're not dealing with it.
Okay, thank you. Mark Ken?
I think like a lot of things, we need to relook at a lot of things here in Clarington, so I would definitely relook at that.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions. Please, okay. I think it would be helpful if you just came up while, not specifically for yourself, but in general, just if I see somebody at the microphone, that will be the next question.
Okay, you ready?
Please go ahead.
My name is Elizabeth Kernier, and I live on the base line. And an issue that's going on there for years and years and getting worse and worse and worse is the speed limit that the cars go by. They think it's the 401. Everyone thinks that's the 401 because the speeds they're going is 401. It's 50 in front of our house. Do you think anybody goes 50? Very few. It's not safe. It's definitely not safe to live there. We're trying to sell our house. Phew. There's nobody going to buy that house with that speed going, especially if they have children or they're older. You can't even get out of your driveway hardly. It's ridiculous. We've asked the councillor a few times, please come one day maybe, sit in the driveway. He gets the first couple of people, and then after that, they've given the lights to everybody else. So traffic slows right down. But doesn't last. Once he leaves, wide open. So I've been, Mayor Foster, I've been to, just recently, because every day I think, oh my God, can't stand this anymore. But I thought this might be a good time. Maybe someone will come up with an idea that, election time we might maybe do something. So I just wondered, what are we going to do?
Okay, thank you for the question.
You're welcome.
Adrian Foster, your turn.
Elizabeth, thank you. You dropped by the office on Friday, and you know that I spoke with your husband. You probably hadn't made it home by the time your husband and I had a conversation. So you're absolutely correct. We put radar in, and as soon as the police leave, the speeds go back up. I understand from statistics, you get a ticket, it'll slow you down for about a week, and things change. The good news for you is that the province has very recently passed legislation that will allow us to use essentially photo radar in community safety zones. The Durham region is looking at that right now. It's complicated. It is not inexpensive, but regional council, at least the one that was in, there is an absolute appetite to put the stuff in to slow people down, particularly in residential areas. You're going to save 3 or 4 seconds by blasting your house as opposed to doing 50 kilometers an hour. We need to change people's attitudes. The same applies with stop signs. Apparently stop signs and red lights have become optional. So red light cameras, as that technology becomes less expensive and easier, we will be looking at both of those. And I can tell you on red light cameras, staff in the past at the region have not been supportive. They're changing their view on that. So I'm with you. Your complaint is not a new one. The legislation will help us. We're looking at that. I'm going to be amazed if regional council doesn't move ahead with it, the municipality may well do so.
More people are going to get killed because we've had a person just across the road killed.
I know the parents of the young. That was some time ago, but it does not diminish the tragedy.
There's been other people killed there as well. That's the only one. It's speed.
Okay, thank you for that intervention. Mark Canning, please.
Thank you for your question. This is not unique as I go across Clarington from the east in Orono, as an example. We have issues with speed on small little roads in there, and I went to Curtis recently, and a street that I used to live off, George Reynolds, the person told me that their kids are unsafe even going down the driveway. So we've got an issue here across Clarington on fast roads. I don't want to say this is unique to Clarington. It's probably like that across many municipalities, but we need to look at a couple of things. One is definitely traffic calming measures. I lobbied for a number of years where I live now in Tyrone in terms of a yield sign and a stop sign. So there just needs to be a bit more focus on those kind of high-risk areas. And the second part of this is when we plan new communities and we do new development, we must think about these kinds of things in terms of traffic, how we plan, obviously, our commercial and retail space. But we need to look at making sure that we don't have these kinds of issues going forward as we do right now.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. Question from the floor, please.
Hello, my name's Linda Gasser. I was a resident of Clarington until 2010, but I remain keenly involved in some Clarington issues, especially where they have a regional component. So my questions follow up on Wendy Bracken's questions about the incinerator. And the incinerator is a concern, not just because of air quality, but also because of the huge ongoing costs that are associated with its operation, and those are regional costs. So the point that residents made many years ago when this was approved, one of the huge costs will be monitoring and all the consulting fees that are required, because really nobody at the regional staff do not have the expertise. So there's always this huge reliance on consultants. So we're at a point right now, 3 years in, where a number of monitoring sort of plans will be reviewed. So Wendy's question was, will the ambient air plans be continued, and would you advocate for their continuing? And I believe you both said yes. One of the other monitoring plans is the stack testing. The additional stack test beyond the once per year required by the Ministry of the Environment, the last one was done in 2018. So it'll be a regional council decision whether or not they will continue with this additional stack test, which would make it 2 per year. And the second part of that connects to Wendy's comments about the AMISA and to Mayor Foster's comments about dioxins, and he doesn't much care about the source. Identifying the source of the pollutants is very important, because if you don't know where it's coming from, you can't address those operational issues. So, for instance, if there is regular stack testing, and if the AMISA is working, you would actually know whether or not the incinerator is the source of those dioxins. Now, there is a potential that some dioxins could come from St. Mary's, but if you've got that information from the incinerator, you know exactly. So I'm asking both of you, will you both, in your capacity as mayor of the host community, will you ask for a complete, not just an investigation of the AMISA, but also a plan? What is the plan to fully understand the emissions of this incinerator? That's dioxins, that's all the pollutants. And another huge concern is that staff reported that there are changing limits for other pollutants, and there will be a big question at Regional Council. Do we improve air pollution control technology, or are you going to ask for an alternate standard and just let old standards be met? That's a lot.
Thank you for the question. I think Adrian Foster is next.
Yeah, so I won't give you a lot. Linda, we're agreeing, and while it doesn't often seem that way, frequently do. So, are we concerned about ambient air monitoring? Should that continue? Yes. Additional stack testing? Yes. If we can get technology and technology changes, it gets better, it gets cheaper. Why would we not advocate for that? And why would regional councillors outside of Clarington not advocate for that? Did I miss something?
Well, I think that's a rhetorical question that you're asking. The point is...
Yeah. You gave us a lot, so...
Yeah. That's just a start. Clarington needs to show leadership on this file. First of all, Clarington regional representatives have to understand the issues, and they have to be able to advocate at the region, because that's what's going to bring the rest of the councillors along, because these are big money issues. And you have councillors from Pickering who say, what do I care about this? You're going to have to be effective advocates to get them to pay for the monitoring. Otherwise, the choice will be, what are you going to do if they don't?
And Linda, that's where those additional stack tests and the additional ambient air monitoring station and limits came from, was our advocacy.
Yeah, with the community.
I think this is a conversation that should be ongoing.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mark Canning, please.
So I think as the mayor, listen, I've been talking about leadership a lot in this election. The mayor is responsible for everything regarding Clarington. We must fight for everything in Clarington. We can't lose our maternity and labor ward that we had at Bonneville Hospital to Oshawa. We have to get the GO train. So the mayor is absolutely responsible for Clarington, working with the stakeholders. So I have the absolute no problem, the political will to bring in best practices on what's happening in other communities that have incinerators, making sure we have the right technology, make sure we do the right monitoring, making sure we do the right testing. So that's where I've been talking a lot also about, moving from single hypothesis thinking, and this is how it is always done, i.e. thinking like a small community, thinking more like a 100,000 population community, and moving to more evidence-based. So you'll see me in this role fighting for Clarington and making sure that we use best practices, whatever that issue might be, whether it's a train whistle cessation at Wilmot Creek, whatever, looking at best practices so we do what's best for Clarington. So I'm not, as I said, Linda, I'm not an expert in this area, but we'll make sure that we get the experts and we do the right thing for Clarington and its residents.
Thank you both.
Okay, Mark Canning, thank you very much. Right now, there's about one very short question because we've got about 5 minutes left in the broadcast.
Why is there, in the last 5 to 8 years, there's been no housing for young people to buy? All the new houses are monster homes, $500 to $600 to $1 million, nothing for the young children. We have neighbors on our street in Maple Grove. 3 of their children are still at home because they can't afford to buy a house. What are you guys going to do about it? You've got to do something about it. I know everybody loves these new big fancy homes, but there's got to be something built, like even apartments for some of the seniors. There's nothing. And there hasn't been nothing for the last 10 years. It's time this council got into something and making these builders build houses that are affordable.
Okay. Thank you for that question. A quick response, please. Otherwise, we're going to be eating into the closing remarks, the 2 minutes each. So Mark Canning, please.
Sure. Here again, everything feeds into the lens of the livable community. So if we need affordable housing, we need to work with the partners in the province and the region to establish that. We do have obviously subsidized affordable housing, but we need to come up with a new strategy to make sure that all residents are able to find accommodation in Clarington. And as I said earlier, I'm willing to work with partners to determine how we do that. If we have a shortage, then you'll see me fight for that as well for Clarington.
Okay, thank you for that brief response. Adrian Foster.
So really quickly, we do need to talk afterwards. It's a long response, but you're going to like the response. So again, Clarington, is ahead of most of the other municipalities with our own task force on affordable and seniors housing, and we are looking at tangible things that we can do to get builders to build more of exactly what you're looking for. As well, I'll give you some statistics. I don't know them offhand. In the past year, the number of apartments, rental apartments that we have approved, the number of condos, small condos that we have approved have exceeded anything that we have done in previous years. So we have taken a very, very firm step in that direction. But I can actually show you. So make sure you bug me at the end of this, and I'll show you exactly what we've done.
Okay, thank you, Adrian Foster. We're now going to proceed to. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Very quick comment, please.
To reduce expenses, you have to be willing to look at the expenses within mind to achieve cost reductions. And otherwise, it will never happen. I don't care if Hazel McCallion says that it's not wise to reduce expenses or cut taxes. I refuse to accept that. There's always a way to cut something out, some fat out of the expenses, and I would expect either one of you to do exactly that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And now we proceed to closing remarks. 2 minutes. Adrian Foster, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll respond very quickly that my comments about Hazel McCallion were tax cuts. We always look at ways of reducing expenses, always look at ways of efficiencies. To which I'll say very quickly, we've heard a lot of things about what should be done in Clarington, and the really, really simple answer to a lot of the stuff that you've heard is been there, done that. So you're hearing a lot about the GO train. We did out-of-the-box thinking. We changed the culture of how we had done things, and we got the announcement on the GO train. And we got the money red circled for the GO train. We hear about working with different levels of the government. That's exactly how we got the GO train. The Darlington refurbishment was supposed to go to Bruce first. That's $12.8 billion that is being spent in our backyard. And that is working with different levels of government and working with the industry to move that forward. You've heard about thinking like a bigger community. I can tell you that if you look at our strat plan, and I would encourage you to go and see what we have done, there are, I believe it was 31 separate things that staff have done in the strat plan. You can see the status of them. If you talk to our CAO, you will see that he's got 60 some odd discrete tasks beyond the strat plan that he's looking at. And some of those tasks have been, and we've done it. We have looked at our IT strategy. We've reviewed it. We brought experts from the outside in to tell us how to do things better and how to do them more effectively. We've looked at tourism and animal services. We're reviewing why we do that, how we do that, and how we might do that better. Clarington is well on the way of doing things in a more efficient and effective manner. Last time I talked about changing culture, there absolutely has been a culture shift. I can tell you that our new CAO, in a breakfast that we had the other day, made the statement, and I think he was surprised that I was actually listening to him. He says, it's not us, it's not them, it's we. Because if business isn't doing well, if the residents aren't doing well, if the municipality isn't doing well, we are all not doing well. You're not taxpayers, you're not stakeholders. You're our partners in this, and we're treating you that way. So has there been change? There's been huge change at the municipality, and that change is going to continue. And you know what? We're damned proud to be the 20th best community in Canada.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrian Foster. Mark Canning, closing remarks.
Thank you again, Louis. I want to comment a little bit about this report that we're rated as number 20, best place to live. As we look at that report, it paints a different picture. And this is why I've been talking about livability in this campaign. Most families from that report, their life savings is tied up in their mortgage. If we have an economic downturn, if we have a housing market downturn, that's a huge problem. Our communities rank very, very low on affordability. We actually rank quite high in the crime rate, 265th. We are very car dependent. That means people are leaving here. 50% of people live here every day for their jobs. We have very little transit. We rank 204th. So what I'm interested in talking about is change and how we build a livable community for the future for our constituents now and for our kids. We're going to do this by creating good local jobs. We're going to lower your taxes. We're going to create better transit and roads. We're going to create safer communities, and we're going to have more accountability and transparency at municipality. So my platform talks a lot about change. I think it's a great community. I love Clarington. That's why we've been here for 30 years, but now it's time to move on and put our big boy pants on and start moving forward as a new municipality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark Canning. This concludes the Clarington Mayor's candidates debate for Ward 1 in the 2018 municipal election campaign. We thank Rogers TV for their coverage and say goodbye to Rogers viewers.